P. Diddy, also known as Sean Combs, was considered an icon. As a rapper, producer, and founder of Bad Boy Records, he played a significant role in shaping the hip-hop and R&B landscape in the 1990s and 2000s. He elevated artists like the notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, and Faith Evans. Beyond music, Diddy built a successful business empire, including ventures in fashion, Sean John Clothing, beverages, Ciroc Vodka, and media, Revolt TV. He has won multiple awards, including Grammy Awards for his contributions to music and entertainment. He was a reality TV star and appeared in movies like Get Him to the Greek. Prior to Cassie's revelations of abuse, sexually, physically, Diddy was almost celebrated everywhere he went, and his legitimate accomplishments contributed to his positive reputation as an influential and successful individual.
I don't get a chance to say thank you.
But you can't ignore abuse, and you can't ignore these allegations. It was Monday night when Diddy was taken into custody at the Park Hyatt New York by Homeland Security Investigations in New York City following an indictment from a grand jury. A law enforcement source told TMZ at the time the arrest was scheduled for Tuesday, but something happened that caused the feds to move in a day earlier. Diddy was arraigned at a Manhattan federal court on Tuesday morning and is being held without bond right now. He is considered a flight risk. Charges are sex trafficking, racketeering, and kidnapping. Immediately following his arrest, Diddy's attorney released a statement that said, "We are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Sean Diddy Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the Black community. He is an imperfect person, but he is not a criminal. To his credit, Mr. Combs has been nothing but cooperative with this investigation, and he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges." We talked to Ted Rowlands of Court TV about the latest in the Diddy drama and what we should expect going forward. Ted Rowlands, Court TV anchor, victim to verdict host, all around swell guy. Let's get into the latest Diddy drama. TMZ is reporting that the investigation is far from over, with sources telling them at least one person has been subpoenaed to testify in front of the grand jury, with two new people wanting to cooperate with the Fed's ongoing investigation of Diddy and are willing to testify in front of the grand jury in the coming days. Have you been shocked at all by what's gone on since November, really?
Well, I mean, it's all of these stories, and you're thinking, well, some of it's going to be true, some of it isn't. They'll do this investigation, and civil lawsuits are so different than a criminal case. And when the indictment was released by the feds, it was like, oh boy, he is in trouble. And it's, you can see the defense argument is going to be consenting adults getting, going to these freak offs, and all of them are consensual. The problem is you're going to have them coming in and testifying about how it wasn't consensual, and add to that the video that Mr. Freak allegedly was taking during these and kept. This is a classic. R. Kelly did the same thing. They keep evidence of this in their homes. So you marry those two together, witness testimony and video, and it just doesn't look good. Oh, and thousands of tubes of lube. It does not look good for Sean Combs.
That's right. And so it was Monday night when he was taken into custody at the Park Hyatt New York by Homeland Security Investigations in New York City. This was following this indictment. Like you said, I can't even repeat some of the things that were in there, but it was interesting to me. Law enforcement sources told TMZ at the time that the arrest was scheduled for Tuesday, but something happened that caused the feds to move in a day earlier. So you're wondering if that is why prosecutors, aside from the fact that he has millions of dollars, a private plane, you're wondering if that's one of the reasons why prosecutors are like, no bail. We got to keep him where he is. Like, what potentially could have happened that made them go in earlier? Charges are sex trafficking, racketeering, and kidnapping. The New York Times reports that racketeering charges are useful against powerful defendants as they allow prosecutors to build a case around an enterprise of accomplices dating back many years. And the federal charges can allow prosecutors to go after crimes dating beyond those state statute of limitations, with Diddy facing alleged crimes going as far back as 2008, including kidnapping, arson, bribery, and narcotics distribution. I worked with him in 2007. I loved him. Like this is so hard for me. Of course, I was
Yeah,
never.
I was going to ask you about that because you have seen him up close, and you always think, well, if someone was around some monster like this, they would pick up on it. But you tell us,
No,
was there
I
anything, even in now, looking back, anything that makes you pause?
Not at all. I mean, my disclaimer is I absolutely believe the victims. I'm so sorry to them that they experienced this. It's horrible that they've not only been physically exploited, but lived in fear with these overwhelming secrets and the idea, in these documents, we see that he kind of blackmailed some of these people holding these videos he took of them, against them, saying, well, if you talk, I'll humiliate you because I've got these very damaging videos of you. But I did have a wonderful experience with him. I planned a party for Ciroc Vodka, his company in Cabo San Lucas. It was for his friends and family. It was like this. It was on the beach. We had a long table for all of his friends and family that were in town. I believe he was with his girlfriend at the time, Kim Porter, and a bunch of new information is coming out about her death and things she might have put together, like pieces of information about him that she might have put together before her death. But everybody was in good spirits. We were under a tent. It was a very stressful experience because he is a very demanding and intimidating person to work for. But I do remember that he was kind to me when all was said and done with. I used his, testimonial on my resume for years. Kinsey really impressed me. I remember too, you're sweating, it's disgusting, and you're stressed because things are not coming to fruition the way they were supposed to. The band didn't show up. Thankfully, we had a great DJ, but he was angry that the band didn't show up. And I remember when the fireworks went off, the DJ was playing Earth, Wind, and Fire September. And everybody was so happy. And I remember like looking up at the fireworks, hearing that song that everybody loves, thinking, never forget this moment, never forget this moment, never forget this moment. You're never going to experience something like this ever again in your life. And so I'm obviously devastated to read about what a pervert and what a gross individual he was, and how sick some of the things he participated in was. And I know that I got off, because I was never alone with the man. I was always mic'd, and there were always cameras on the both of us. So I was in a safe space, and I'm very grateful that I was in a safe space. But that doesn't change the fact that I had a great experience with him. And so I don't want to come out and look like one of those people that jump on a trend and say, oh, because everybody's dogging this person, I'm going to rip into them too. If I've spent the last 10 years saying I had a great experience with this person, I'm not just going to be like, screw this guy. I will tell you I believe them, and I'm horrified, and I would never work for him obviously today. But
Well, you might not be doing that, but I guarantee you, people that were close to him and working with him and saying, "Oh, yes, yes, sir," are now running. And some of them are going to be involved in this case. And to your point now, they're coming forward and saying, I'll testify in front of the grand jury because they're also complicit. You think about the people around Harvey Weinstein, people around Jeffrey Epstein, R. Kelly. Those people are conflicted. You can't imagine. I mean, you've seen them up close. You've seen the people around, and you know how this works. They have handlers that know this is maybe they weren't part of the organization of these parties or witnessed them, but they know. And they're conflicted as human beings, as employees. And for them, it'll be very interesting to see how many people actually, at the end of the day, support it.
well, I do have a question for you because you've seen it. You just mentioned a couple of examples like this: R. Kelly, Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, there's this amazing new series on Amazon Prime right now, A Very Royal Scandal, about Prince Andrew's interview after Jeffrey Epstein's death, where the interviewer says, "Do you regret your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?" And he says something to the effect of like, "I'm not ready to say that yet," or he dances around it and won't completely distance himself from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was convicted of something. Like he was a convicted pedophile, so you probably should have just you know blatantly been like, ew, I regret that. But Maureen Callahan has written a piece for the Daily Mail titled, "Why Are Diddy's Famous Friends Hiding? Jennifer Lopez, Jay-Z, and Others Are Shamefully Silent. Where's the righteous celebrity outrage, the moral indignation?" And, I think about what I just said to you. Perhaps some people did not have this negative experience with him, but
Oh,
she's
I bet you, yeah. 99% of the people he interacted with, it, you think about the details of this indictment and to your point, the disgusting, perverted nature of it. It's crazy level, right? It's just like Epstein and R. Kelly. The people that knew all the details, I guarantee you, weren't those people, the celebrities that he knew, because they would have dumped him as a friend and or outed him had they known he was, I hope, into something allegedly so crazy.
That's right. But don't you think back on it and agree that it is a little odd that everyone jumped to criticize Harvey Weinstein? You had Angelina Jolie, Gwyneth Paltrow, Charlize Theron, Emma Thompson, Julia Roberts, Meryl Streep. Some of them were writing articles for the New York Times, and everybody was ready to pile on Weinstein. But and pile-ons aren't great. I mean, I guess that's also an argument. Maybe pile-ons aren't great, but it does seem like Hollywood is suspiciously quiet. And there's this
Yeah.
new article that also says that Justin Bieber has been completely thrown by the allegations, and he's grappling to make sense of them. And Bieber is so disturbed by the Diddy news and unwilling to process it or discuss it, so he has shut off. Is it better that we're not piling on? Or does it say something weird about society that we pile on for some people and not for others?
I think it's the ebb and flow of the times. When you think of Weinstein, when the Me Too movement just first ignited, it was sort of this unleashed energy of women that had felt versions of being Weinstein, versions of the casting couch. And it was time to speak up and time for it to stop. And, it may have swung the pendulum a little too far. I mean, i.e., Amber Heard making up, or writing her. She wanted to pile on too with Johnny. Like, yeah, I was a victim too, writing that op-ed piece in the Washington Post. I, I, I don't know. It's a great question though, because you would think that there would be more. I can't believe these allegations, and there's also not the. I don't believe the allegation. You don't have anyone coming out at all. It's just like,
Yeah,
no comment, and I don't know what to do. I think we're maybe in that place
yeah.
because people aren't getting canceled to the point where they used to during the Weinstein Me Too era, but still. And you think about Robert Kelly too. R. Kelly, without that documentary, he was able to withstand parents coming to authorities. Um, there was ammunition there to investigate R. Kelly, and they were never successful until that doc came out. And Diddy, on a, there isn't that consolidated documentary. Yes, there have been reports of it, and there's talk of this for a long time, but you don't have that same sort of evidence in your face when you watching it. When you watch the R. Kelly documentary, oh my God, I would hate. Can you imagine being the parents of one of these kids that got trapped in his crazy world? And that maybe isn't there for Diddy. And then again, to your point, people that knew him, they knew this guy, and the accused, not that guy. And what do you
And
do with that?
exactly, but a part of me when I was reading through those papers, and this is maybe a tough question, but are people less willing to defend sex workers because of the stigma around sex workers? You know, are people not coming out and saying, this is absolutely appalling that we're friends with Diddy because a lot of the people that are making accusations were sex workers? Or am I, I just think, you think about some of these statistics. It's an older, I mean, it's 10 years old, it's an older study, but this one study said 60% of sex workers experienced some form of violence while working. 32% said they reported physical attacks while engaged in sex work. But what was really concerning about the report was 40% of sex workers, their interactions with law enforcement, they said those were negative experiences, that some were oftentimes they'd go to report something and would end up in jail for reporting something. So is there, with Weinstein, these were glamorous, beautiful women that were assaulted by this Hollywood big shot. And I think your point is very good, that it was at the height of the Me Too movement. But because these people aren't celebrities, and because these people do what they do for a living, are people less sympathetic towards the victims?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And as a society, we tend to put ourselves in different positions, and real outrage only comes when we can picture ourselves in that environment. And for non-sex workers that would go to a freak out and freak off at the Diddy party, it's hard to comprehend how it all got there. Where they were paid, they were there voluntarily. No one, there's a version of it, that's what the defense is saying. So yeah, that's a great point, that you don't have the empathy for the victims inherent within at the same levels as maybe you would with a different type of crime and a different type of victim. But I do think that another part of the equation is that people like this, and again, these are allegations. People like this, they find victims that don't have a voice or don't have the power to turn you in, get you busted. The people are very cunning, and he was, if these allegations are true, he was kind of a mix of the R. Kelly sex addict with the Jeffrey Epstein blackmailer. That it was
But
that
also
kind of
the Bill Cosby,
combination.
like if
Oh,
he drugged
GHB,
people,
yeah,
yeah.
right, and drugging, yeah. No,
Uh,
he had it all going. He must have, but if again, allegedly, he is innocent until proven guilty. So yeah, it's amazing. Why isn't there the outcry, the feeling of all these poor victims that you think we should have? Maybe it's too because they filed civil suits and they're looking for a payday. That can rub people the wrong way. But it's a great question.
but to your point, also talking about the R. Kelly documentary that made everything kind of spiral, I think when it comes to the court of public opinion, it started to spiral for Diddy when someone leaked that video of Diddy attacking Cassie at the hotel. Who did that? I mean, that is a huge question mark. I think about that all the time. Who did that? Because everything had been taken care of. Remember how quickly he settled that civil case with Cassie? Like within hours, he did not want any additional details of their relationship to come out. He paid her off. And
Right.
so that we should have considered that over and done with. And then that video is leaked. And everybody was done with Diddy. Peloton, we're not going to play your music anymore. New York City, we want the key to the city back. Miami Beach, no more Diddy Day. I mean, everybody was done with Diddy after that video came out.
Yeah, and now you wonder, without that video being released, does the investigation have the same sort of intensity? Because the video produced that outrage, which then produces a federal prosecutor to say, "Hey, we have to go all in on this. This is serious business," because people want answers, and that video is absolutely disgusting. And anyone who sees that just writes him off, as we should. That type of behavior, his apology, was it my low? Okay, but that's over the top, and it's going to be a huge part of the case against him too. And not only that video, imagine what the other videos are that they have now in their possession, prosecutors, after those raids in Miami and LA. It's gonna be it's looking pretty dire.
Yeah, and this is
Sure.
not the kind of case that you settle. This is definitely, it feels like it's definitely going to go to trial. They want to go all in. Feels like Cassie is going to be one of their number one witnesses. And it was interesting in court. I don't know how much you read or saw of it, but when Diddy's team was trying to explain, I think they refer to her as victim A or victim one or something. They don't say Cassie specifically, but it's almost like they're victim shaming when they're trying to justify the video of Diddy at the hotel, saying they set it up saying that his girlfriend at the time was going through his phone, saw him talking to another girl, had stolen his clothes and ran out with his clothes. It had thrown his cell phone at his head, stolen his clothes, ran out, like trying to justify what we witnessed. There is no justification for what we
Right.
witnessed. But
Right.
Cassie,
And they also went on to say that, and she came back and apologized to him 2 days later. Like, okay, that's even deeper. That means it's that you monster, you have control over this poor person that is despicable. So
yeah.
yeah, you're right. That, and defense attorneys are doing everything they can to get their client, I mean, out of prison before, out of jail before the trial, because it's a game changer when you have to sit in custody waiting for trial. It's no fun.
No, I'm sure that he never saw himself in this position either. I'm sure he felt unstoppable. Just, I mean, to me, there's no recovery here. I feel like he either gets 15 to life, and I mean, I could be off, but I feel like he gets 15 to life. He's gonna pour all his money into defending himself. Um, what is his legacy? What does he do? I mean, what does his family do? Are they are they in a bad position now financially? This just seems like he could lose absolutely everything. There's almost a dozen civil cases against the man.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It is not just him, it's his family. I feel horrible for his kids, anyone who used to sort of get the benefit of being Sean Combs's relative, friend, kid. Now that's gone. Now it's a negative. You're and these allegations, even if he's found not guilty, which I think is a snowball's chance in HEW toothpicks. I think his name, that because of that video, it's over. I mean, his what is his legacy? Every time you hear his name or one of his songs, it's the R. Kelly effect. First thing you think of, like, ooh, horrible person.
Yeah,
Which, Michael Jackson fought that all the way through his life. Once the allegations against him came, he was found not guilty in that first trial, but it's the same sort of thing. It tarnishes that reputation you worked so hard for. I mean, what he was able to accomplish is extraordinary in music and in business. He built an empire.
I do think like throughout the process of this conversation with you, I guess one of the words that would come out is betrayal. Like when I
Mm.
think of him going forward, I'm going to think that he's not the person I thought he was, and I feel betrayed by that. I use the word disappointed a lot, but it's almost too soft. Like I feel betrayed thinking that I put him on a pedestal. And I was the kid that grew up watching and reading about Diddy's white parties. Like everybody was there. Martha Stewart, Snoop Dogg. Like Diddy was, his brand was fun. He also had this, when it came to working, he was very intimidating, and there was a lot of pressure to please him, and you didn't want to be on his bad side. But as a kid growing up watching MTV, he was the fun hype guy in the videos, dancing around all the expensive cars, having a blast. And his brand was fun. You wanted to get invited to Diddy's parties. He was always at the Super Bowl throwing parties. And it's such a betrayal to realize that there was really something so deviant going on. It wasn't, these weren't like fun Hollywood Diddy parties. There was disgusting, vile, vulgar stuff really happening behind the scenes that he thought he could get away with because his brand was so good. And he had, I just saw his publicist of 20 years just quit him. And that was somebody that had done a really good job painting a picture of a guy that was a philanthropist. Remember when he changed his name to Brother Love? I mean, like they had really worked so hard to make this guy look like a upstanding citizen.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny that when you're talking about the betrayal aspect of it, you look at any, you know, victim, any criminal who does something egregious, their family members, their friends, their coworkers, they feel that same thing. And when you're a celebrity of the proportion that he is, that permeates through your fan base and admirers around the world. And that's exactly where he is now.
Do you have any predictions for how this will unfold or what will happen? Is Diddy going to testify? Do you think that they do have a lot? We watch them carry out hard drives. We watch them carry out computers. Do you think that they are, I mean, we as the
Federal.
public see this stuff, or is it not? No, because it's federal. Like, will we not see any of the evidence? Like, how does this work going forward?
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, federal courtrooms don't allow cameras, and the dissemination of the evidence is more difficult to ascertain, at least during a trial in a federal case. You can get it typically after the trial's over. But what we're going to hear is the just reporter regurgitated version of what happens on a daily basis in court. The bottom line here, though, the feds don't mess around. They win. They don't go to trial unless they win. They know they're going to. They didn't serve this arrest warrant until they had all of it set. The first day they got those, I'm sure the videos from their searches of those homes. Day one, they're like, "Oh, we got a case," but they're meticulous and they just never lose. So he's in big trouble, and I don't think we'll see he'll see the light of day. How old is he? 55, somewhere there.
I don't remember how old he
Yeah.
is, but yeah,
I
he's
mean, who knows at the end of the day how many he's not going to walk, in my estimation, knowing what we know from that indictment.
Ted. Thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you for allowing me to relive my Diddy days, although very brief.
I liked your Cabo San Lucas story.
Yeah, my Diddy days, very brief, and now something I probably should never discuss again. I got to put that in the vault. But yeah, that this has been, I think that this is just the beginning. I think that we could see additional victims come forward, and I mean, eventually somebody's going to break and say, I mean, maybe it's Bieber, I don't know, but I feel like eventually somebody's going to come out and be like, somebody big will come out and push back on Diddy, because I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. But I
The one
appreciate,
guy that's really happy is 50.
yeah.
50 Cent is like, I told you.
And I worked with him too on the same show. So it's like mom and dad are fighting. Thank you so much for talking to me, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.